It was something I had offered to do since last August. I've been eager to do it, and I was pleased to have the opportunity to assist the department in bringing its review to a conclusion.
She's released 55,000 pages of emails, 31,000 different emails. She's released her tax returns since 1977. She's released her health care records. She's always been willing to talk to authorities.
I have always had confidence in our frontline FBI personnel as well as the FBI leadership. I think the events of the last week, though, do call into question Attorney General Lynch's judgment in taking a private meeting with Bill Clinton.
Well, while most of us are having a relaxing 4th of July weekend, it was anything but that for presumptive Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton, who not only had to tamp down all kinds of speculation about that allegedly impromptu meeting between her husband and the Attorney General Loretta Lynch in Phoenix, Arizona on the tarmac there, but she also had on Saturday a 3.5-hour interview with various members of the FBI and her legal team. Let's bring in the panel right now. Charles Hurt, political columnist for the Washington Times, Julie Pace, White House correspondent for the Associated Press, and David Drucker, senior congressional correspondent for the Washington Examiner. Let's get right to the question that's on everybody's mind from the get-go: indictment or not? Charlie, we'll start with you.
If you'd asked me this 6 months ago, I would have said absolutely there's no way that she doesn't get indicted and that Joe Biden was waiting in the wings. I have no idea what to think at this point. But you know, what we saw over the weekend is exactly why she has such a dramatic credibility problem. You know, when she takes something like this, where she's being interviewed for 3.5 hours by the FBI and calls it an opportunity that she's been inviting for 6 months, this is why nobody believes what she says.
We've got an offer you can't refuse, is the way the FBI might have put it, yeah. Julie.
Well, I'm also unclear on obviously whether she's going to be indicted or not, but I think to Charles's point, even if she's not indicted, she is going to have so many people that truly believe that she did something, if not illegal, something that's wrong, and they don't trust her, and they don't trust the idea that the Clintons in power wouldn't try to use the system to their advantage. And the Bill Clinton-Loretta Lynch meeting, I think, is going to be top of the list for those people. Just another example of what the Clintons would do if they were back in the White House. Whether they talked about anything improper or not is kind of besides the point, I think.
You talked about the trust factor. Let's take a look at the most recent Fox News poll about that of June 2016. Does honest and trustworthy describe Hillary Clinton? Yes, only 30%. No, 66%. And if you look at that same question that was posed earlier in January, 36% said yes, 62% no. In June, a year ago, it was 45% yes and 52% no. So the numbers are declining, David.
Yeah, it's not good news for her, and it's one of the reasons why I think this race is so competitive. Look, if we step back for a minute and really look at where this race is, it's a competition between somebody Americans don't trust to tell them the truth and somebody Americans don't trust can actually do the job. And so I think for Hillary Clinton, one of the things she needs to try and do, if it's at all possible, is to put this thing behind her and try and inoculate herself from attacks, which I think could be effective. That it's not even whether she did something wrong or not with the email server and the homebrew server and all of that stuff, but that it calls into question her judgment and ability to do the job. And if you look at her selling points, right, why would people want to vote for Hillary Clinton for president? One of the biggest selling points is, whether you agree with her or not, she would know what she is doing because she has so much experience in government and politics. And this can completely undermine that, but what she has going for her is her competition right now. He finds a way to give her a boost even over the past couple of days when it should have all been about her FBI questioning and her husband's meeting with Loretta Lynch. He gets creative with his tweets again, and so there's a lot more to talk about.
She's going to be campaigning with the President of the United States tomorrow, boarding Air Force One, headed to North Carolina. It's the first time that the President has campaigned with her officially as the presumptive nominee. And Donald Trump put out a tweet just moments ago. I think I've got it here. It says, "Why is President Obama allowed to use Air Force One on the campaign trail with crooked Hillary? She's flying with him tomorrow. Who pays?
Well, this
Who does pay?
And this is exactly where Donald Trump's sweet spot is. It doesn't matter that there may be some technical errors and all of that. What matters is people are so sick and tired of all of these people. They're sick and tired of the politicians. They're sick and tired of Washington. And it makes people mad to think of the president flying around on Air Force One, campaigning for Hillary Clinton. But also, another way of putting what David was just talking about is that Hillary Clinton, people do believe that she has experience, but what they believe is she's been part of the problem for a very long time. And Donald Trump has to turn all of this away from his personality and make the campaign about trade, terrorism, and largely trade and terrorism. And if he can do that and get it away from the thing about his personality, then he's going to be on strong footing.
Julie?
I do think it's worth noting, though, that President Obama is experiencing his highest favorability ratings pretty much since his first term right now.
Partly because of the infighting among
Partly because of
Republicans.
the infighting. But if you assume that this election is going to be a base election, which I think a lot of people do, for Hillary Clinton to have him by her side in North Carolina and then through multiple appearances through November is a real advantage for her. He remains popular among Democrats. He remains someone who can appeal to young people, to Hispanics, African Americans, and those are the people she needs to get out in the fall.
We're about out of time for this segment, but I have to ask you really quickly. Buried in a New York Times story today was this quote. Democrats close to Mrs. Clinton say she may decide to retain Mrs. Lynch, the nation's first black woman to be Attorney General, who took office in April of 2015. Was that the quote-unquote bribe that Bill Clinton offered her on this plane?
Well, they didn't do a very good job of it if they did, because we shouldn't be talking about it. It's, again, a story she doesn't need. It's the kind of thing that circles around the Clintons. And it's what we'll be dealing with for the next 4 to 8 years if she wins.
But that is what you get with the Clintons. When you get a line like that in the New York Times, you just assume that it's a private signal that the Clinton camp is sending to Loretta Lynch. Look, just back off, let me get into the White House, and I'll take care of you.